So, yeah. So, welcome to the backyard of my friend Evan, and all I ask is that people contribute what they think the value of somebody who's been teaching these skills for 26 and a half years and practicing them for 43 years um, knows and have been mandated to pass to you. And, honestly, the idea of charging for the information I help you to remember has never sat right with me. Now, when you're running a class at a place, you have to pay insurance or rent the place, and, sure, there's some fees involved. But the information itself, I never felt right in, including that in the I would either set prices for classes at tractor school or in my own life. And then after 4 years of just struggling, I said, oh, one night in a dream, my dad and a few elders who passed on long ago said, just give it away and ask people, to provide what they can. Similar to, back in the day. If you wanted a lesson from an elder, you would often just leave them an offering of some sort. And, I asked that, at minimum, you at least share what I'm trying to accomplish here, which is provide the highest quality nature education available online um, for whatever. And I feel especially drawn to doing it in this day and age when we have all these ridiculous shows that are providing people with bad information that are literally getting people killed. And there's just, whenever I teach a class, whether it's one of my webinars or an in person class, I always say there's never enough time, you know. Any of the subjects I teach in shelter, water, and fire and food, that could be anywhere from like a week to a month on each subject. And then, uh, so as an educator, I need to decide what to leave in and what to give you. And sometimes that's a hard row to hoe because if you're dealing with things like mushrooms or edible plants, you could potentially put somebody's life at risk, like happened at a place in France, I believe. The instructor told a student that water hemlock was actually wild carrot, and needless to say, uh, guy is not amongst the physical anymore, and it's sad. So one reason I always had an issue with those shows was the mantra and the whole idea of humans dominating nature or nature and humans being adversaries, which died because it's really nice to have nice scenery. And things are going to get even better when uh, I get to my next destination, which I'll be leaving for shortly. And I will soon have the ability to set up basically what is a, a Wi-Fi bubble that is um, about a half a mile, I'm guessing. If anybody's watching, I'm wondering how the quality is because I'm not getting That's better. Um, but yeah, so I want to make sure that you're getting the best possible info. And being that I'm going to be nomadic, I'm going to be traveling around, hopefully in a van, because the Subaru is, yeah, so sorry about the quality. Skipping every 10 seconds is, that's probably the lag I have set, or the buffering. Yeah. So I'm gonna keep this short, but I wanted to let you guys know a few things. So, being that I am moving on from here and moving a bit east, um, there should be no disruption in current class schedule. In fact, because of the whirlwind trip back and forth to New Jersey, I had to postpone a couple classes, and I'm going to add dates to all the classes that I had started, um, just so that the class lives up to, what I call T3 quality. And you getting the best of me. I'm a tool. I'm a tool of nature to lead people back to nature by showing them cool things through my camera and my teachings. And if I don't take care of myself, and if I'm not well fed and lubed and oiled and rested, um, my product, my classes, and my students are not going to be the best. And I will no longer settle for anything less. Uh, it took 4 years, but I was holding on to a lot of animosities and angers towards a lot of things. And it wasn't until two people who I consider to be incredible human beings, two of the most beautiful souls I know, one of them being Mr. Victor Wooten, and the other being the author Norma Schnell. Um, I've known them a long time from tracker school, and being that I know the importance that elders are where the true knowledge lays. One thing that disgusts me about this country is how we treat our elderly. They become an inconvenience and they get stuck in a home when the elders are meant to be around to spend time with the kids, to pass on the traditions. And I think that is one of the reasons why our society is such, it's a dumpster fire. And I've been spoiled for the last long time because I almost walked into like the brick wall at a store. And it's funny because those of us who are considered to be experts or masters at certain skills, often we have blind spots because we take for granted the fact, that we possess the information we do. And as somebody who's literally born into an environment of, as you'll read in my blog post that I'll be releasing in the next few days, born into a life where every month I had, anywhere from 40 to hundreds of aunties and uncles and others come from all parts of the world. And I was kind of like a barn cat, just kind of slinking around and listening and duplicating and learning things the way they're meant to be learned. And then my connection with nature grew from literally just being on this. I don't even know how many acres the farm I grew up on was because I just went as far as I could walk and a half a day, through farm fields. And I knew that land and that river, and I know that land and that river, the Musconetcong in New Jersey, so well that the morning we arrived in New Jersey, I stopped at that river and wept and gave thanks to my father because for many years of my life, that river was my everything. I knew everything about the stretch that was part of our property. I knew where every fish was. And when you have a connection with something like that, it's incredibly intense. And in fact, I've been blessed, one of my good friends who I've kept far too little in touch with over these last few years is Mikey P. He and I went to grade school together, and he eventually went on to do a lot of the class recordings for Tracker Audio. And I love him and his family like my own. His parents are two of the most amazing, genuine people on earth. And the fact that I'm close to being nomadic and being able to go back there and spend more than just the night that I did, um, and spending time with them. Which brings me to something that's pretty painful to talk about, and that is um, that two people who have been incredibly influential in my life are Bob and Joan Erickson, who founded the Sun Foundation outside of Peoria, Illinois, in I don't even know if it pre 1972. And Bob and Joan, are two of the most brilliant, bright, shining people on this planet. And I'd become so disconnected from everything that every year for decades, me and other good friends like, Mike Kirshner and Zach Rowe and Tom McElroy and um, God, Ivan, and just a whole bunch of other people. Courtney from the when I first started the tracker school, and we would all meet there from all parts of the earth for this 1 week and a few days after, where we would drink about 1,000 Miller Lights and, and teach kids during the day and have an absolute blast. And I almost got to go this year. It would be my first time in 11 years. And, but I was shocked to realize that I was so caught up in my own life and chasing shadows and, you know, wasting my precious time that I found out a while back a friend of mine had lung cancer, Mr. Aaron Fletcher, who was a friend, and he's missed. But I was talking to my good friend Beagle, Adam Miller, that after he got back from Fletcher's memorial service, and we were talking, and he said, that Bob took his final walk on January 29th. And I was like, that's my father's birthday. And my heart just broke a little bit because, one of the things I'm really bummed about is that I did not get on the road in time to go there and visit with them because they are some amazing humans. And Bob is now omnipresent, and I will see Joan. We actually stopped there on the way to my father's celebration of life, and because we literally got there at 2 in the morning and woke up at 10 and left. I didn't even get a chance to see Joan, and it's broken my heart that I didn't. And that's one of the first places I'm going to go. Um, and also, of course, because my buddy Brett Erickson lives there as well. And they have one of the most beautiful properties I've ever had the privilege of living on. But, you know, I have these last 4 years, if it weren't for me losing four things, um, it has been like a whole lifetime of learning, of hurt, of victory, of uh, you know, learning how to live with myself. And the other day, being able to shed it at Norma's ceremony that they have held for decades now without fail on the solstice and on the equinox. And I've had the blessing of being there for several of them. And there's a whole cadre of tracker school elders that live here in the Pacific Northwest because my dad, for the first, 6 years of the school's life, he would come out here and teach for part of the year. In fact, that's how Frank and Karen Sherwood ended up being instructors for a long time. And in my 7 years and 6 months here, I've had the pleasure and blessing of meeting people that I still remember from when I was like 4 and 5 years old. And they've given me so many albums of photos that are going to be part of the digital history of the Tracker School Museum that I'm building, after I do things like get out from underneath my crushing debt and, uh, you know, find a way to get myself into a van. But yeah, I am going to, I have thousands and thousands and thousands of photos. I've got 5,000 plus slides. I've got other stuff I'm going to scan and put up, and you'll be able to look at, you know, spread it out kind of like a 3D timeline starting in, 78 and going all the way through the modern day. In fact, it does my heart so good right now to know that my brother River is teaching at the tracker school in New Jersey after all that's gone on. And I am so proud that he chose to pick up the vision. And due to a understanding, we didn't talk for years, and it crushed me. And I just want to tell him how proud I am of him, River. The fact that you've been texting me, and it's been priceless. Thank you, brother. And I've also been chatting more with my brother Cody because, communication wasn't something we were taught how to do very well or very in a healthy way. And I've spent literally 17 years learning how to be emotionally intelligent and be able to communicate with people. Um, and now that I see the last 4 years for what they truly are, and that, as the great Victor Wooten told me, who is at the center of everything you just told me after I talked at him for 30 minutes exactly without him saying a single word. He stopped me and he says, "You've been talking for 30 minutes and I haven't said one word. Now you're going to shut up and you're going to listen to me." And he says, he said, "Right now there's a storm raging around you. And what's at the center of that storm?" And I said, "Me." And he goes, "There you go." So, yes, Even though I have been misled and, was naive about things, whether it was trading in my truck like an idiot or, you know, a whole cadre of other things, I made the choice. Therefore, as a grown up, I know that responsibility is something that is taken and not given, and only I am responsible for my station in life. In that old life, I'll always carry it with me as a reminder of what it was like to eat once a day and spend over a year sleeping only 4 hours a night. And by no means has my situation improved anymore financially. Um, but it's all the other garbage. I have separated the wheat from the chaff. And, it wasn't until some words via text message from my friend Norma and a fire ceremony the other day that is and I held it there and I picked my hand up, and other than a little bit of a burn here, like, my hand was fine. And all of a sudden I felt like light as a feather, and I felt like I just have so much to be thankful for. And I know I still got a lot of work to do. And now that I've gotten over my crapulence, things will be far expedited. So, that in mind, I wanted to mention a few things about my online teaching. The pay what you will model is proving to be amazing. But I do need your help in spreading the word. I still, after 4 years of dealing with them, uh, I cannot seem to get in touch with this person who, says they try to call me, but my phone doesn't ring. And yeah, that's been a mess. I'm just done worrying about it. And like I said, I'm going to teach. Got a lot more awesome classes coming up. Then once I get on the road, I'll continue to run my scheduled classes, but there'll be times where, I may post on social media that in 3 hours I'm going to be doing a pop up live stream from, wherever. Uh, Gnawbone, Indiana. In fact, I promise you I will do one from Gnawbone, Indiana. And, it'll just be up on YouTube. But, I'm going to spend 2 years traveling, stopping some places longer than others, north, south, east, west, in every direction of the compass. And Intervision is going to guide me. And in return, I'm going to provide revolutionary online nature education. In fact, my uncle, Dr. Jim Brown, who I also owe a ton of thanks to, and Mark for helping me out with the website. I, and Jim and his wife and daughter, where I'm about to go, um, I am just overflowing with gratitude. And that's what I felt I needed to share today. So, after I record this, I'm going to take a minute break, and then I do have a stalking and natural movement class that starts tomorrow in my classes section. I've also decided to kind of restart the Diamond of Oneness class, seeing as I started the first episode after getting back from New Jersey, and I literally, from sitting for so long, I had to crawl from my bed to my computer chair. And so I've decided to restart all of the webinars that I've started thus far. Um, so everything, my friend Mark, who I'm going to do so many chores for in Texas when I visit him, uh, we're going to get the schedule corrected. You can go on the classes page, and things will be clearly laid out. Now, I also want to announce that due to my treatment of customer service people, I I treat customer service people like they are the greatest people on earth because I know that they get yelled at all day long, and the things that have been gifted to me by them has been awesome. So on my old web page, I had, a page dedicated to organizations I trust. And I know that if you go to this school for this skill, you will get, more than what you're looking for. To, gear companies I use for photography, for going out in the woods, articles I've written, my master class, a whole bunch of stuff. They gave me a free month's access to all my old content, and I have a bunch of classes I can pull up there. What the heck is that? Oh yeah, that's my AFib thing. So I think with that, I'm gonna end it because I'm actually gonna take an afternoon and I'm gonna film something really quick, and then my friend and I are going to paddle around in an inflatable two-person kayak. And you know what? I deserve it. But I love you guys. Thank you so much for understanding about everything. And there's one thing I've learned these last years is that you know there's no such thing as problems, only solutions. Until next time, good night, good luck. Hopefully, I don't drown in the Columbia, but there are far worse ways to go. But anyway, love you all. Until next time.